Just because he held his breath in the bathtub for 58 seconds, the boy confidently decided he wanted to compete in the Olympics, dragging his limping legs with a large red satchel on his back. Even in the dead of night, he set out alone. His mother pretended to be surprised and asked where he was going. "Graham, I've been told my breath at the Olympics." Yet instead of scolding him, she thoughtfully told him to put all his medals in a box. But the moment the boy stepped out of the house, his mother urgently called for her husband. "He's off to the Olympics again." Soon, Eddie limped to the bus stop, only to find his father had already been waiting there for a long time. Helpless yet skillfully, his father fabricated a lie, coaxing and tricking Eddie back home, and gave him a book titled Moments of Glory. Little did he know, this would become the thing his father regretted most in life, because ever since Eddie read that book, his Olympic dream grew like wild grass, impossible to cut down or burn away. When Eddie's leg condition fully recovered, he tried pole vaulting, hurdles, weightlifting, and hammer throw, but with no natural talent, he failed in one event after another. The box his mother had given him for medals ended up filled with one pair of broken glasses after another. One day, he suddenly wanted to try javelin, but accidentally hit the glass next to his father. His father could no longer tolerate his son's wild ideas and ordered him to come to the construction site the next day to paint walls. "What about my Olympic preparation? Eddie, you are not an athlete." Thinking this would finally crush his son's dreams, it instead opened up a whole new vision for him. Seeing the ski slope next to the construction site, he was inspired to compete in the Winter Olympics. Stepping onto the skis of his dreams, he raced down the 45-degree slope. That feeling of flying gave him a direction to strive toward. From then on, the walls were covered with certificates, and the tables were filled with trophies. 12 years blew away the childishness from his face, but his dream was never carried away. Through relentless effort, he finally got the chance to try out for the national team. But in front of multiple cameras, he knocked over a row of teammates in one go. The chairman of the British Olympic Committee complimented him for causing quite a stir and congratulated him on losing his eligibility for the tryouts. It wasn't about speed, nor was it academic prejudice. "You will never be Olympic material." A dream he had prepared for 12 years was brutally shattered. Helpless, he followed his father and became a painter. It seemed he would compromise with reality, but the next day, ski jumping on television gave him new hope. Since he couldn't compete in slope skiing, he would take up ski jumping, and since 1929, Britain had no ski jumpers, meaning he had no domestic competition. As long as he achieved an official result in a competition, he could easily represent Britain in the Winter Olympics. Filled with excitement, he returned home, took up his recently stored skis, and told his parents about his new plan. "Plans? Well, pliers. I'm gonna be an Olympic ski jumper." His parents were both happy and worried. His mother was glad he had rediscovered his dream, while his father was worried that he was going back to idling around again. But facing his confident child, he could only accept it helplessly. And so, Eddie crossed the ocean and arrived at the training ground in Germany. The ski jump here seemed taller and more dangerous than on TV, but there was no fear in his eyes, only boundless hope for his dream. But beyond the dream was the cold reality. Penniless and with no place to stay, he could only sneak into the small storage room of a restaurant to sleep. Fortunately, that kind boss lady took him in, letting him do odd jobs while leaving in time to train. At first, he chose the 15-meter jump. Over a decade of slope skiing experience allowed him to easily conquer this beginner's jump. He then turned to the nearby 40-meter jump. His reckless courage shone through on the rapidly descending slope. As expected, he fell, and also realized that ski jumping wasn't as simple as he thought. The owner iced his injuries while advising him to find a coach. The Norwegian national team coach walking toward them seemed like a perfect fit, but when he approached them full of hope, he was met with mockery and discouragement. In Norway, athletes typically start training in ski jumping at age 6. At 22, wanting to compete in the Olympics was a joke, but Eddie ignored the mockery. If no one would teach him, he would teach himself. He stood on the 40-meter jump again, racing down against the wind. The skis beneath his feet roared, as if ready to wage a fiery battle against the cold reality. But Eddie, with no experience or talent, clearly became the loser. Yet, tireless as ever, he went down again and again, falling again and again. The word stop seemed foreign to him, until this time, he broke his finger. Brown, watching nearby, couldn't stand it anymore. He said Eddie had no talent for ski jumping and warned him not to try the 70-meter jump. If Eddie broke his neck, he'd be the one cleaning up the mess. Whatever. Originator by anyway, but what Eddie didn't expect was that Brown had not only tried it, but was once America's top ski jumper. However, after victory, he became arrogant and undisciplined, eventually getting kicked off the national team. Now, he was a snow remover who drank all day. After learning about Brown's past, Eddie immediately launched a relentless offensive, but upon hearing that Eddie wanted to become an Olympic athlete within a year, without any training, Brown simply drove him out. After leaving, Eddie watched a professional athlete fall from the 70-meter jump, and fear instantly gripped his heart. But by evening, he acted as if nothing had happened, pestering Brown to be his coach. Nearby Norwegian athletes overheard, and not only mocked Eddie, but insulted Brown as just a drunken snow removal driver. Brown couldn't take it. He threw a punch with all his might, but the other easily dodged it, followed by a counterattack from their coach. When Brown woke up, he found only Eddie by his side, and so he decided to give this young man a little guidance. Ski jumping isn't just a sport, it's an art. It requires freeing your mind, feeling the sensation of flight. When descending, lift your legs on the skis, stretch back, and let the sound of the wind roar in your ears. He also told Eddie that falling from the 70-meter jump might break a bone or two, and with luck, you could still stand up, but the 90-meter jump was the forbidden zone of life. One mistake could land you in a coffin. Fueled by alcohol, he demonstrated it himself, standing on the 90-meter jump. At that moment, countless stars seemed to twinkle just for him, and the falling snowflakes seemed to sing his praises. After a perfect landing, he took a sip of alcohol and walked away. Greatly inspired, Eddie stood on the 40-meter jump the next day. Remembering Brown's teachings, he leaned forward, turned his legs back, and flew through the air like a bird. This perfect landing made him overestimate his abilities again. Eager for quick success, he stood on the 70-meter jump. As expected, reality dealt a harsh blow to his overconfidence. Fortunately, it was only minor injuries. While monitoring him at the bedside, Brown opened the book of this former coach. His coach had written in his own hand that Brown was the most talented athlete he had ever met, but he was never focused enough on competition. He withdraws when facing setbacks and avoids when confronted with difficulties. Looking at this reckless yet determined young man before him, Brown decided to redeem his troubled past through self-redemption. After Eddie recovered, Brown began teaching him wholeheartedly. Shout out after every jump, release the tension, feel the impact brought by your soul. After repeated practice, Eddie finally qualified for the German championship. As long as he achieved a result on the 70-meter jump, he could represent Britain in the Olympics, and with professional guidance, he successfully conquered the 70-meter jump for the first time. Though it was only 34 meters and placed him last, the result was valid and broke the British record. But the British Olympic Committee didn't want to waste money on this amateur athlete. They raised the minimum standard to 61 meters in order to make life difficult for Eddie. His father thought he would give up, but Eddie didn't. With his mother's support, he took his parents' savings and drove away in his father's camper van to seek systematic training from Brown. And Brown, deeply moved by his determination, officially agreed to be his coach. First, feel the sensation upon landing, then practice the jumping movements. Next, train your balance in the air, then master the skill of landing with bent knees. Experience the thrill of soaring through the sky. Rewards may not appear immediately after making efforts, but they will surely arrive in full glory when you give your all. Half a year later at the European Tour, a completely renewed Eddie achieved 61 meters on just a trial jump. If he could repeat that tomorrow, his dream would truly become reality. The next day, he leaped down. His galloping posture is like that of a superhero, cutting through the blue sky, surpassing the white clouds, but failing to conquer the snow beneath his feet. He fell down regretfully, and the result was invalidated. All his efforts went up in smoke. After experiencing a high point, his dream fell back into a gloomy low point. Eddie sincerely apologized to his parents, saying he would never act like that again. He would come home after finishing work this week, but this time, his father, who had never supported him, rarely encouraged him to cheer up. There's no dead end ahead. Hope lies around the corner. Just as he was working hard, he received the results from the European Tour. It turned out the staff had recorded his trial jump result as well. Now, with a ticket to the Olympics, but Brown advised Eddie to train with him for 4 more years. He was confident he could turn Eddie into a serious contender for the champion, but Eddie didn't care about gold medals. Being able to showcase himself at the Olympics was his desired moment of glory. Is my moment, fools, make this your moment, please. You'll be a fool, they'll make you a fool. And well, I'd rather be a sober fool than a drunken coward. They parted on bad terms. Finally, Eddie successfully put on the national team uniform, but being selected through a loophole in the rules didn't earn him recognition. His teammates got him drunk, so he missed the opening ceremony, and the chairman even made things difficult for him, not letting him attend the banquet. But he didn't care. He just wanted to enjoy his moment of glory, racing down the 70-meter jump, feeling the roar of the wind and the chanting of his dream. He landed perfectly. Amid the commentators' mocking tones, he achieved a score of 60.5 meters, a full 40 meters behind the second-to-last place, but he was extremely excited because his dream had come true. The audience was amused by his antics, clapping and cheering for this unconventional athlete. He spread his wings like an eagle, fully enjoying his own moment of glory. With the name Eddie being widely recognized, he became extremely popular and gained a huge following, receiving interviews from numerous media outlets, but the other team members were ignored. He bragged to Brown about how everyone loved him now, but Brown still insisted that Eddie was just an entertaining clown. Once the 90-meter jump competition began, he would be forgotten. These words made Eddie lose himself in deep thought. Was he truly enjoying the competition process, or just the moment of glory? Looking at the 90-meter jump, he immediately gathered all the reporters. He admitted that he had been a bit reckless. But I take jumping very seriously. I love it very neatly as much as proving people wrong. This is why I decided to compete in the 90 meters. He wasn't there to seek fame as a clown, and he wouldn't return home with such a reputation. With that, Eddie laughed, but looking at the 90-meter jump, his heart was still filled with unease and fear. Then Brown walked over and said that track was Eddie's moment of glory because he already possessed the qualification to conquer the 90-meter jump, the unwavering will and courage. Just as he was about to compete, the television broadcasted the precarious performance of the previous athlete. It would be a lie to say he wasn't scared, but true passion never retreats. Dreams march forward without hesitation. When it was Eddie's turn, looking at the racetrack so close at hand, his mind echoed with the negative words of others, but this time, you would prove everyone wrong. Fix takeoff soaring through the air, get off stage and stretch out. This ugly duckling, whom no one had faith in, conquered his inner fear at the last moment and completed his own transformation.